I know it's always cool to jump on the bandwagon and hate on something that isn't necessarily bad just to fit a narrative, but the lies and the misinformation needs to stop about the Batman Arkham Trilogy. Because while one bad apple is totally bad and rotten, and the Batmobile and gliding is just literally painful to your eyes, the entire collection is not null and void, nor does it suffer from the same problems that are happening in the Arkham Knight game. As many of us know in the gaming space, Arkham Knight was never going to run on Nintendo Switch. Whether it was through a cloud service or if it was done natively, the game is just too big for the limited RAM and memory that the Switch has in order to run properly. The Switch can usually utilize most ports very well. Look at what happened with Hogwarts Legacy. But for Arkham, well, Arkham is an entirely different beast. Rocksteady told me a long time ago that the Batmobile itself was almost as powerful as one PS3. That's a lot of data. So the reason why they had to actually work on it on the PS4 and the Xbox One is because, well, those were bigger, beefier systems. If they tried to port Arkham Knight onto the PS3, you would have the same problems as what's occurring on Nintendo Switch. Now, I don't know if actually putting Arkham Knight on a cloud service, like we've had with some Resident Evil games that Nintendo is, partnered with Capcom on, I don't think it would really make much of a difference, because the game itself is literally being ported and downscaled, and even then, with the muddy textures and, we'll say, some of the poor, blurry visuals, the game still can't run on Nintendo Switch. And I see people saying things like, well, they could probably just patch it, and they could do this update, and it's like, I hate to be that guy, but no amount of praying and hoping and wishing and patches are going to allow Arkham Knight to be a playable game on Nintendo Switch. I don't believe so. Now, that doesn't mean that the entire trilogy is not worth your time, because what people like to do because they're upset is, again, make up lies and false allegations against the entire trilogy because one game is bad. And we can all, own up to it. We can even, not pull the wool over your eyes. I, as a YouTuber, am telling you, Arkham Knight is not playable. I have experienced it firsthand. I've played the Batmobile challenges. I've played an hour of the game. I've seen it with my own eyes. In fact, the game was causing me so much eye strain that I had tears coming out of one of my eye ducts. So that's not a good thing. Also, I got motion sick, but I haven't been motion sick in a long time since my family took me to The Great Escape in Albany, New York, when we had to be in a car for 45 minutes on a bumpy road. That's the last time I got motion sick. But playing Arkham Knight on the Batmobile, yeah, no, that was not a fun experience. The sputtering and the slowdowns and the... it's like a living, walking nightmare is just literally, staring me in the face, and I'm contemplating, am I going to stream this monstrosity or erase it from my system and just ignore it and go to Arkham Origins? I don't know yet. But that's besides the point. So, looping in the other games that are near flawless, and I would argue that Arkham City is flawless in its execution, because what people fail to remember, because it, just doesn't fit with what the cool kids are saying, that Batman Arkham City was perfect when it first came out, and that is not true. So the PS3 version of Arkham City, while it received high praise, it had its fair share of issues for back when it released in 2011. There was screen tearing, there was slowdowns in frames, and the game sometimes, especially when going into an area, would kind of pause a little bit and load up because, it had to load the level. And that's exactly the kind of stuff that's happening on Nintendo Switch. And people are like, well, I don't understand why this is happening on Switch. It's because, basically, the game that you're playing is an upscaled version of the original Arkham City. But it's a little bit different. It can go higher than about 35 frames per second for Nintendo Switch. Don't ask me how, we don't know. And it also can go as low as 27 or 28 frames per second when trying to load up a level or sometimes doing a glide boost. Now, that kind of stuff, again, was normal back on PS3. But because, people just want to dump on the problems that are existing because of one game, that means the entire trilogy is bad. And we need to, stop our mindset about that, because it's wrong. It's not fair to the other two games. Not that the other two games have any feelings, and I'm trying to be very, we'll say, soft-spoken around Nintendo, I am no longer a brand ambassador. Those days are long behind me, and I'm pretty sure I'm still blacklisted at Warner Brothers, even though I was defending my wife because that cad said something horrible about her. But that's besides the point. So I have no, claim in this race as a defender receiving any type of monetary value that I know of or checks. So this is coming from, literally the truth. Arkham City plays perfectly on Nintendo Switch if you're comparing it to the original PlayStation 3 build. Now, if you are comparing it to the Return to Arkham thing, then no. That weird cartoony game ran perfectly. I believe it also was at 60 frames per second, and it was 1080p. Something that even Arkham Knight can't, say that they're able to do. In fact, people have been waiting for a 4K 60 frames per second patch for the longest time, or update, and Rocksteady still hasn't done that, so people have had to go to mods and other things, or use Steam Decks to make the game run the way they want. So, no, the Return to Arkham collection is not going to be able to run on Nintendo Switch. It would probably run like Arkham Knight, but maybe not as bad because, there's no Batmobile. But, yeah, people need to stop that comparison that, Return to Arkham was a better game. Of course, it was better in terms of processing power or whatever technical term you want to use, but it's still basically, it was like a reanimated corpse of the Arkham classic games. They got rid of the shading, they got rid of the shadows, they got rid of the mist, they got rid of the creepiness. Literally, in the old game, you could stand in the shadows and Batman would nearly disappear. In the new game, or the remastered version, the whole game was so bright like it was out during the day, and remember, these games are supposed to take place at night. So that was a huge issue that I had with the Return to Arkham collection that released a while back. It felt like the atmosphere was missing, and it was, because they quote-unquote updated the visuals. Joker looked like he was wearing weird face paint that you would see at a carnival. It just looked weird. Batman also looked like he had a Botox injection in his face. But no, everything was fine when you updated the visuals. That's what the narrative was back then. This is the better version of these games, when a lot of us knew that this was a problem back in the day. It didn't have the same look and feel of the original. Kind of like going from the Spider-Man face we had in 2018 to then the Yuri face that we had in the 2020 remastered. It's kind of that type of facelift type thing, but imagine the whole game going from what you loved and then into, this bright monstrosity that played fine, but it still was a problem. Now, I am going to be completely honest with you. Arkham Asylum on the trilogy has its, loading issues, and it does have some frame drops. It doesn't run as perfectly as Arkham City does. Arkham Asylum did have its little hiccups that bothered me. I was trying to do challenge maps, and sometimes the, slowdown was definitely apparent, and it wasn't that often on the PS3, which is a shame, but again, you have to see it as this was the first time that Arkham Asylum has graced a Nintendo platform. Had it came out on the Wii U a long time ago, maybe it wouldn't have the problems that we have with it. But that doesn't mean that the game is unplayable. I showed you guys that I could stream the entire game. I did really well. I did some of the challenges very well and got 3 stars once I completed the game. I only got 2 stars on one level because I had some frame rate issues, but the game is very, very playable. Both games are. Arkham City being the best, and Arkham Asylum being, pretty good. I would say it's comparable to what we got on the Wii U in 2012, and both games do run at 1080p, which is not something that the originals did. They were 720p games. So while they're not, 60 or full 30 frames per second sometimes, unless you're playing Arkham City, the games are still definitely playable. And they're enjoyable, too. You will have no issues completing them. The only game that you're going to struggle to complete would be Arkham Knight, and if it's, just between us, you can save a lot of money getting Arkham Knight, on sale through PlayStation or Xbox. It's a much older game. You can get all the DLC, probably under $9 because of the whole, Christmas sales going on. Or you could get it used and get it cheaper that way. So, you don't necessarily have to play it on Nintendo Switch and put yourself through this eyesore and this pain. You really don't. And I hope people don't, just because they get the game on the collection doesn't mean you need to download everything. 2 great games, and 1 game that is going to make you, kind of cry in a corner. And, that's a shame. What I hope is that Nintendo will actually allow people to download the games that they want and add prices for both Arkham City, Arkham Asylum, and Arkham Knight, And I guarantee you, people have no problems, and they'll enjoy getting the games separately. Because there's a listing on Nintendo's eShop that the games appear to be, separate. You can download them. They have their own pages. But there's no pricing right now. So if I was Nintendo, considering one of the games is completely unplayable and a huge mess, I would, kind of jump ahead of the narrative and make it so those all 3 games are purchasable by themselves. And then you can, kind of squash this nasty rumor going around that the entire collection is bogus, because it's not. But now I want to hear from you guys and gals. How do you feel about the Arkham Trilogy? Is it as bad as YouTubers are saying? Or do you think you agree with me and that the games work fine except for Arkham Knight? Let me know in the comments section below whether you like or hate this collection. I want to hear from you guys. Just make sure to keep it civil and polite and give us good vibes. Alright people, thanks so much for watching. I will see you guys live later tonight with more of our dive into the Arkham City game, this time on Nintendo Switch. Alright people, take care, have a great rest of your day, and I'll be back with another fun video in the future. God bless and happy gaming.